Hi, fourth grade. We are coming in to the last couple of weeks of our school year. So, this will be our last week for new content. Next week, we'll just do some review. But this week, I wanted to try to tie together some ideas that we've been talking about lately. And I want to do it by helping us to think about what obedience is and why do we have rules. So, the worksheet that you have for this week is really simple, but it's also something I really want you to think about. It's a rule in my house, is what the worksheet is called. So, you're going to work on that. Again, it's really simple, but it's important because it talks about how if we love someone, we want them to be safe and happy. And that's how God feels about us, right? He wants us to be safe and happy. And sin makes us sad. When God created us, He told us what we need to do so that we can be happy and not get hurt. But Adam and Eve really struggled to obey God, right? And a lot of times we think that rules prevent us from being happy, but God's rules actually keep us free. So in this activity, I'm just kind of presenting it at the beginning of the lesson. It's not going to be a long lesson. Sorry, it's hard to tell the angle there. A rule in my house. You're going to think about a rule that your parents, your family has at home, in your own house, and why is it important, and why does it show that they love you, and that rule helps you to be safe and happy. So you're going to think about that, okay? But let's pull it back a little bit. Let's talk about rules and obedience. So the word obedience, we know what that means. It means to listen, right? To listen and to follow what we're told. And who is the number one that we're supposed to be obedient to? Well, it's God, right? And there are two women in the Bible who show us two examples of how people listen or don't listen to God. One of them is Eve, and the other one is Mary. Eve and Mary. And you remember, because we've talked about it so many times, the story of what happened when God gave Adam and Eve the beautiful garden and just one rule to follow, to not eat the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden. And then the snake came, the devil, under the appearance of a snake, and he tempted Eve, and he said, God is holding back from you. You won't die, you'll be like God. And Eve believed the snake. And Eve disobeyed God, and then she found her husband Adam, and he also disobeyed God, and that totally broke apart their friendship, their connection, their relationship with God. But God loves His children so much that He doesn't give up on them, right? And all through the stories of the Bible, we see God wanting to be back into friendship with us, His beloved children. And so, toward the end of the Bible, we have another woman named Mary. And Mary, when she hears God's voice, when she hears God's commandment, His call to her, she doesn't say no to God like Eve did. She says yes to God. Mary says, yes, I want to do your will, God. Yes, I want to listen to you. I want to obey you. Mary gives us this beautiful example. And what's that moment when Mary says yes to God? Well, that angel comes to Mary, right? The angel Gabriel, and basically says, look, Mary, God is asking you to be the mother of His son, Jesus. Will you say yes? And at first, Mary's a little afraid. She doesn't understand. And the angel explains to her. And then Mary just simply says, behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. Be it done to me according to your word. Mary says yes. Now, let's think about the consequences of the choices. When Eve said no to God, what does that lead to? Well, leads to sin and death, right? Adam and Eve had to struggle and toil. They got kicked out of the garden. It was sin. It ruined their relationship with God. It closed the gates of heaven. And ultimately, they had to die. If Adam and Eve hadn't have sinned against God, hadn't bit that apple, they wouldn't have died. That was not part of God's original plan. Now, let's look at Mary. When Mary says yes to God, what is the fruit of that choice? What are the consequences of Mary's choice? Well, Jesus is born and He saves us from sin and death. Do you see how powerful it is to follow God's rules, to be obedient to God? And that is a way that we show our gratitude and our love. If God made us, do you think God knows what's best for us? Absolutely. God knows what's best for us because He made us and He knows what we're made for. We're made to be His friends. We're made to be with Him one day forever in heaven, which is the most amazing thing in the entire world, universe, cosmos, infinity, and beyond, right? I have a really beautiful picture of Mary and Eve that I want to share with you. Virgin Mary consoles Eve. So this picture shows Mary, and you can see she's obviously pregnant in the picture. And you see the picture of Eve. You see Eve's got the snake around her ankle. She's holding this apple. She's looking sad. But notice where Eve's hand is. Eve's hand is on Mary's hand right above where baby Jesus is growing inside Mary, while Mary's hand is on Eve's shoulder, offering her consolation, offering her encouragement, saying, Eve, I know that you made a really bad choice, but guess what? God's love is so much bigger than your sin, and God has a plan, and I'm saying yes to His plan. And you see Mary's foot? Mary's crushing the snake. Mary's got the snake under her foot, and she's killing that snake because Jesus, who conquers sin and death, is inside Mary. That's so amazing. Boys and girls, real freedom is freedom to say yes to God, to say yes to God's plan. Real freedom is the freedom to love others, to love God, to love ourselves. Mary gives us a beautiful example of what real freedom, real love, obedience really is. Eve failed, but God did not abandon Adam and Eve. Eventually, God sent His own Son, Jesus, to save not only Adam and Eve, but all of us from sin and death. And so this week, let's think about rules and why they're important. Let's think about how when we follow the rules, it's a way that we can show that we love and that we're grateful. We're grateful to God and to the people in our lives that He has there to help us to learn what's right and what's wrong, to help us to grow into real freedom so that we can have the happiness we desire and one day be together with God in His kingdom in heaven where everything is beautiful. So that's all I have to share with you today. I want you to work on that worksheet that I've posted, and we will be together for our Zoom class on Wednesday. And also don't forget to do the prayer reflection. All right, God bless you. Bye.